All right, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the really high-stakes mystery surrounding a potentially historic weather event. If you've been keeping an eye on the meteorological data for June 2026, well, you already know there's a massive debate happening right now. The sheer volume of traffic and the passionate back and forth on the NetWeather community forums is practically unprecedented this week. So today, we're going to use the insights and raw data pulled directly from those incredibly knowledgeable users to figure out exactly what is brewing in the atmosphere. To really grasp the gravity of what we're looking at, we have to start with a massive number, 40 degrees Celsius. NetWeather user Don pointed out that while 27 to 33 degrees looks highly likely over England and Wales, even a staggering 40 degrees absolutely cannot be ruled out for the UK at this stage. I mean, that is just a massive attention-grabbing figure. Hitting 40 degrees in the UK is the kind of meteorological extreme that forces everyone, from your local forecaster to civil authorities, to sit up and take notice. It just goes to show how explosive the potential outcomes are if the precise synoptic ingredients happen to fall into place.
And look, this extreme heat isn't just some hypothetical scenario spit out by a computer model. It is a physical reality that's currently baking Western Europe right as we speak. User The Ogre perfectly captured the surreal nature of it all, saying, "This really is quite phenomenal for Paris. You'd think it were somewhere in Andalusia." When a northern city like Paris starts experiencing the kind of long, fierce heat waves that you'd expect down in southern Spain, it highlights a massive dome of trapped thermal energy. And that sets up a super dramatic, high-stakes debate over whether the UK is going to get dragged into the sweltering continental party.
Section 1. The approaching summer heat wave.
So how is this potential record-breaking event actually taking shape? Well, the crucial point of uncertainty across all the different forecasts hinges entirely on the behavior of just one single meteorological feature, a cutoff low. In atmospheric physics, a cutoff low is basically a weather system that's become completely detached from the main atmospheric flow, the jet stream. In this specific setup, forecasters are watching closely to see if a cutoff low will position itself perfectly to the west of Iberia. If it stalls and drops anchor right there, its counterclockwise rotation acts just like a giant atmospheric engine, actively pumping all that intense Andalusian heat straight up towards the UK. But if it fails to form or even shifts just a few hundred miles, the heat stays locked safely away on the continent.
Moving on to Section 2, Battle of the Weather Models. Our digital detectives, those incredibly complex supercomputer weather models we rely on, they completely disagree on what's going to happen with that crucial cutoff low. As user Mike Poole concisely explained in the forums, the models are locked in a massive tug-of-war. On one side, you have the UKMO model scenario. The UKMO explicitly cuts the low off from the jet stream and tracks it south, which immediately fires up that heat engine, pumping the really hot air directly toward the UK. But on the flip side, we have the American GFS model. The GFS assumes the cutoff low doesn't form at all, resulting in a much flatter atmospheric pattern. In weather terms, a flatter run brings stronger westerly winds and heavy Atlantic influence, which effectively blocks the continental heat and entirely prevents the extreme temperatures. It's a genuine, fascinating split in the data.
Which brings us to Section 3, the GFS controversy.
Okay, so the Morning 06Z operational run of the GFS model completely shocked the weather community. Instead of cutting off to the south, the GFS aggressively tracked the low-pressure system northeast, right through Ireland and Scotland. User Edinburgh_1992 totally captured the mood, calling it an awful run with sub-zero 850 temperatures and more Atlantic influence. To put that into perspective, 850 temperatures refer to the air mass roughly 1,500 meters up in the sky. Seeing sub-zero up there in late June is incredibly cold, completely replacing dreams of a spectacular summer heat wave with a really unseasonable chill. For the folks eagerly tracking a historic heat event, this single run caused some genuine alarm.
But hey, before we panic, pack away our summer gear, and cancel the weekend barbecues, the community is urging some serious caution based on historical model credibility. User W. Yorksweather laid out a reliability ranking for these global models, and the standard GFS currently sits absolutely dead last. The community consensus, which is echoed by highly experienced users like Ben Sansbury and WeatherFanatic123, is that the standard GFS output should pretty much be ignored right now unless they get backed up by the heavy hitters. And what's really wild about 2026 is that the heavy hitters are entirely AI-driven. Machine learning models like the AIFS are dramatically outperforming the traditional physics-based models when it comes to recognizing complex atmospheric patterns like cutoff lows. They hold the top spot right now, followed closely by the highly respected ECM and GEM.
Now let's look at Section 4, Breaking the Historic Record.
With the standard GFS largely dismissed by enthusiasts as an unreliable outlier, let's look at what those top-tier, highly respected models are actually predicting. Spoiler alert, It is heating up fast. User ManuTDM Landboy 1986 spotted an incredible raw value of 34 degrees Celsius for London on the top-tier ECM model for Sunday. Now, the reason this specific number sends ripples through the community is because of the urban heat island effect. When you apply the usual local temperature corrections to these raw mathematical outputs, a base of 34 degrees puts the absolute all-time June temperature record in serious jeopardy.
And the heat builds even further on other highly credible runs. The GEM model produced some truly extreme output that caught everyone's attention. User Captain Shortwave cited widespread, stifling temperatures of 36 degrees Celsius across East Anglia for Monday. User Swebby was quick to give us the context on what that means. 36 degrees perfectly matches a legendary historic benchmark set way back in the famous sweltering heat wave of June 1976. For anyone who follows UK weather, 1976 is basically the holy grail of summer heat events.
So will the June record actually break? That is the ultimate tantalizing question driving all of the community's feverish data analysis right now. Are we just looking at a very hot, uncomfortable week, or are we literally about to witness meteorological history?
To get an answer, we have to transition from looking at single operational runs to statistical probabilities. By crunching the vast amount of data specifically from the top-ranked AIFS ensemble model for London, user Works Weather gives us a really fascinating statistical breakdown. Ensembles run the model dozens of times with slight tweaks to see all the possible outcomes. Right now, there is roughly a 24% probability of breaking the all-time June record at some point in the coming week. Yes, 76% says we fall short, but having a nearly 1 in 4 chance to shatter a historic all-time monthly weather record from a week out, that is incredibly high in the forecasting world. Those are odds that meteorologists absolutely pay attention to.
Section 5. The Regional UK Divide.
Now, as we so often see in meteorology, the impacts of this impending system are not going to be felt equally across the country. There's a stark contrast in fortunes expected next week. It's shaping up to be a classic north-south split. While the south and east are preparing to bake with that intense heat building and those potential record-breaking highs we just talked about, the north and west are facing a very different reality. Because of how the atmospheric flow is oriented, northern areas are expected to stay substantially cloudier, stuck under the influence of trailing weather fronts that'll effectively suppress the temperatures until at least Sunday.
But adding a final, fascinating layer of intrigue to this regional divide, the NetWeather community has keenly observed a significant flaw in standard public forecasts. Users are fiercely criticizing the automated BBC and Met Office app forecasts, pointing out that they might be heavily overdoing the precipitation amounts up north. You see, automated forecasting apps often really struggle to differentiate between a decaying weather front that's just producing some light drizzle versus a highly active system dumping heavy rain. So even if the north is stuck under cloud cover, the human experts are suggesting it might not be nearly as wet or as miserable as your phone's default weather app is currently trying to tell you.
As we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this final thought. When extreme weather looms on the horizon, will the top-ranked AI-driven consensus predicting historic blistering heat prove correct? Or will the historically unreliable outlier, that cool, flat, traditional GFS model, somehow manage to pull off an incredible upset? In the incredibly complex, ever-shifting world of meteorological forecasting, which model's version of the future is actually going to become our reality next week? Keep your eyes on the skies and on the models to find out.